Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT This Morning.
Protests in Ferguson have damaged buildings and injured at least one police officer. We'll have a full report up next. Also, wind damage to Lexington's recycling center means services will be on hold for a week in town.
And the mother of a victim of an officer-involved shooting in Lexington speaks to WKYT about her son's involvement in that shooting. One of those stories and more in breaking news as it happens coming up on WKYT This Morning. Good morning to you and welcome. It's good to have you with us as we get this new day off and rolling. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Rebecca Smith. We'll get to the fallout from the protests in Ferguson in just a minute after that indictment was announced a little after 9 o'clock.
Staying on top of that, a night of violence out there in Ferguson, Missouri, and some other protests around the country. That in a moment. First, the latest track on weather. Let's go to First Alert meteorologist Micah Harris.
We're looking outside, clear skies, looks pretty good. And let me just say, as we go throughout our Tuesday, we'll be right there in the low to mid 40s under mostly sunny skies. And we're going to be holding on to that through much of the day. It's not going to be a bad day whatsoever. Still will be below average nonetheless as we go throughout the next several days. We'll even drop those temperatures a little bit more. Maybe even add a little bit of snow to it. But right now, we're sitting there in the 30s. Today's forecast, about 43. It'll be sunny and cool. That is going to be the call. Now, as we take our temperatures off into the next few days, that keeps us there in the 30s, maybe even a little snow. We'll go over that forecast coming up to you in just a few moments.
Okay, we'll see you shortly. Let's get to the news.
The National Guard is moving in as demonstrators continue to protest the grand jury decision not to indict Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. More Guard troops have been called in by the governor of Missouri.
Daniel Nottingham has the latest on the protests in Ferguson, Missouri.
Protesters marched into the early hours. Demonstrations spiraled out of control and turned violent. At least a dozen buildings were set on fire. Businesses looted, windows broken, and hundreds of gunshots were heard.
What I've seen tonight is probably much worse than the worst night we ever had in August. And that's truly unfortunate.
Police hurled tear gas into crowds. Some demonstrators taunted authorities and set fire to police cars.
The police brought it on themselves. They have an aggressive stance and they intimidate people.
All angry over a grand jury decision not to indict Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of 18-year-old Michael Brown.
They just didn't kill this young man, they overkilled him.
The rioting quickly spread here to West Florissant, where protesters set businesses on fire.
Following the decision, prosecutors released documents reviewed by the 12 jurors, including images and testimony by Officer Wilson. Wilson says he shot a series of rounds at Brown during the August 9th confrontation, which began while he was still in his squad car. Wilson said, "His hands were inside on me, and he entered my vehicle with his hands, arms, and his head, assaulting me." Police continue to urge protesters to demonstrate peacefully.
Change is created through our voice and not through destruction of our community.
Brown's mother broke down among protesters following the decision, calling for the system that claimed the life of her teenage son to be fixed. Even in her anger, she urged protesters not to combat violence with violence. Danielle Nottingham, CBS News, Ferguson, Missouri.
And other protests have been reported in cities around the country, but those have been described as peaceful. Stay with WKYT and WKYT.com for updates on this continuously breaking story. With peaceful protests planned across the country as a result of the Ferguson decision, Lexington is no exception. A protest is planned for tonight after a grand jury decided not to indict Officer Michael Brown in the shooting death of an unarmed teenager. Those protests are set to take place on Limestone Street. We'll have a full report on Lexington's response to the Ferguson decision coming up later this morning on WKYT News when we kick off things at 5.
The mother of a man shot by Lexington police says she doesn't think her son would want to hurt anyone. Police say yesterday morning Joseph Kilburn was involved in a drug deal not far from Berea Christian Church. They say two Lexington police officers, Wesley Farley and Christopher Mason, were on patrol when they saw it. Police say Kilburn then tried to run down the officers with his truck, so they shot him. Kilburn's mother says her son's friends told her Kilburn was trying to drive away from the officers, not run them over.
If my child did this, he's going to have to pay for what he did if he did do this, if he did what they're accusing him of. But still, the end don't justify the means.
She says her son was shot in the head and tells us he's stable at UK Hospital. The two officers are now on administrative assignment while police investigate. Well, new this morning, a Lexington murder suspect who was arrested in Arizona is now back in Lexington. 30-year-old Jeffrey Morris was arrested by U.S. Marshals in Phoenix after he was wanted for a Lexington murder. Police issued a warrant for Morris's arrest back in July. They say he shot and killed 47-year-old Anthony Carter on Chestnut Street on June 11th. He's set to be arraigned later today.
Also new this morning, we now know the name of a suspect charged in a Lexington murder case. 18-year-old Trayshawn Jones is charged with murdering Flaco Lopez more than 2 years ago. Lexington police say Jones, Alexander Burdett, and two juveniles forced their way into Flaco Lopez's apartment on Davenport Drive back in August of 2012. They say a shootout occurred, killing Lopez and injuring two of the intruders. Jones is also charged with assaulting two correctional officers. We're tracking the investigation into a stabbing in Whitley County. Police say it happened outside a home on Highway 904. They say 30-year-old Justin Noble and 51-year-old Scott Powers got into an argument over medicine, and Powers stabbed Noble twice. Noble was airlifted to UK Hospital, where police say he is in critical but stable condition. Police arrested Powers. They have charged him with first-degree assault.
It was an argument over medication, and then it escalated to a fight, and then it escalated further to a knife stabbing.
Investigators say Powers stabbed Noble twice. Again, Noble is airlifted to UK, and we're continuing to monitor the situation. Police arresting Powers and charging him with first-degree assault. He would not speak with us from jail. Strong winds and some damage to trees and power lines in the area yesterday. They even shut down part of Versailles Road.
The winds tore off a part of a roof at Lexington's recycling center, and as Sam Smith tells us, the damage will affect the city's recycling program for days.
When recycling arrives at Lexington's recycling center, its first stop is this building. But as you can see, strong winds damaged the roof.
You know, the winds were pretty intense in Lexington, and the material ended up ripping, and then it was flying about 30 feet up into the air.
Director of Waste Management Tracy Thurman says with this building out of commission, the city can't properly process recycled materials for at least a week.
If you can hold back on those recycling materials, then that'll help us out here until we can further identify our issues that we have and get back to processing.
There's never a good time for something like this to happen, but with Thanksgiving this week, not being able to recycle could be a problem for some folks.
Well, it's disappointing, but I think we can get by.
Residents like Mark Pasquarello are asked to keep their bins inside for now.
People in Lexington really do care about recycling. It's a very organized city, and I think that they'd be able to make sure everything works out well.
The damaged piece of the center is covered by a warranty. Officials never thought they would have to use it because the material was expected to be able to handle strong winds. In Lexington, Sam Smith, WKYT.
No other damage was done to the center. The city will have a better idea of when recycling will continue later today. The fire department, code enforcement, and the building manufacturer will all assess the damage. Well, thousands of people lost power in eastern Kentucky as well associated with this. The Kentucky power manager in Pike County says at one point there were about 4,000 customers in the Hazard and Ashland areas without power because of the winds. About 100 customers in Breathitt County lost power. As of this morning, power has been restored to all but about 50 customers.
A Boyle County youth football coach who lost a foot a little more than a week ago in a farming accident wants to thank the community who've been helping him. We first told you about Dale Shepperson on Friday. Over the weekend, Dale Shepperson's football team raised thousands of dollars to help pay his medical bills. They raised the money through a car wash. Coach Shepperson says he is happy that his players are doing good off the field.
It's just overwhelming. I mean, it's just, you just don't expect that. Him and the rest of those guys, I mean, they're just amazing. Yeah, just amazing bunch of boys.
The money will be going towards getting him a prosthetic leg with a price tag of $110,000. He hopes to be fitted for it in a few months. Thousands of families in Lexington will be having a meal for Thanksgiving thanks to some generous people. God's Pantry Food Bank began handing out Thanksgiving food baskets yesterday. Each basket includes a turkey and vegetables and other traditional Thanksgiving foods. If you signed up for a basket but have not picked it up yet, you can do so today at St. Luke United Methodist Church on Alumni Drive or Broadway Christian on North Broadway. Each church will hand out baskets from noon until 2 and from 5 until 7 today.